you'll notice the people who hate our country tend to hate Israel too. It's these people again. The people on the hard left, whether they be in the media, the Democrat Party, or academia, they hate Israel. They won't call it anti-Semitism, but that's what it is. I mean, the standards that they apply to Israel, the attacks on Israel, they don't apply to any other free/democratic country on the face of the earth. France, Britain, Spain, Germany. America, yes. Israel, yes. And this MSNBC, which is owned by Comcast Cable in Philadelphia, is the worst of the worst. They're even worse than CNN, quite frankly. There's certain hosts in particular. But I want you to listen to this, and I'll comment on it. This is MSNBC, the Rachel Maddow show. I understand she's doing a once-a-week show. Hey, I think I do that on Fox, don't I? A once-a-week show. And MSNBC journalist Ali Velshi. Now, Ali Velshi in the past has worked for many radical left publications. But here he is again. Now, he might be the guy, and I could be wrong, during the riots a year and a half ago, 2 summers ago, where the buildings were burning in the background, and he said it was mostly peaceful. I think it was him. If I'm wrong, too damn bad. But I think it was him. Go.
This is my last show with you for a while. I leave Ukraine in a couple of days, and I do so with a heavy heart, largely because of the suffering I've witnessed here and on the part of the refugees I met in Poland and Hungary before I got here, but also because I've come to know a tiny percentage of the people of this nation, and I'm deeply inspired by them. They are showing the world what an existential fight for democracy looks like. This show decided when the war began that it was important to concentrate on the many aspects of this horror. And that has meant less coverage of some very important U.S. stories, which my MSNBC colleagues have done an incredible job of staying on top of and holding power to account. Those stories, like the continued attacks on voting rights and abortion rights and gay rights and trans rights, and the ongoing brazen attempts to subvert American democracy, are not unrelated to the struggle for basic rights in this fledgling democracy.
Yeah, it's utterly unrelated, you damn fool. The Ukrainians are being slaughtered. There's genocide taking place. Atrocities of the worst kind. Everything you mentioned is just something you disagree with. I mean, if you really want to talk about abortion, and I won't today, maybe that looks more like Ukraine. But his side, abortion on demand right up to birth, which is what Colorado just passed, is sickening. Or they talk about voting rights and so forth. They don't believe in voting rights. They believe in destroying the voting system and all the protections that are built in to prevent fraud. And I could go on and on and on. The idea that this guy stands there in Ukraine and then brings up basically what are Republican/conservative positions and says it's similar to what's going on in Ukraine just shows you what a disgusting buffoon he is. Go ahead.
Ukraine. There just aren't bombs and tanks and missiles and rockets involved at home. But the fundamental urges are the same. People yearn to be free, to love who they want and live where they want, free of threat. The other lesson with which I leave is that...
By the way, as I think about as he speaks, the voting system in the United States prior to the pandemic was a much more inclusive and perfect voting system than in Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't allow abortion on demand. I can go through a lot of these subjects where he's talking about Ukraine, and I feel the same way he does when it comes to the suffering that's going there. But his attack on conservatives and Republicans, Ukraine reflects and resembles more the conservative Republican point of view when it comes to culture and morality and governance than his point of view, which is more sort of the communist Chinese point of view. Go ahead.
Face of growing atrocities against innocent civilians here, war crimes, and what many in this country, including its president, are calling an attempted genocide, the world needs to do better. Democracy and freedom are imperiled worldwide. If it's tough for NATO and the UN to prevent one country from actually invading another and subverting its population, imagine the struggle our world order has with those countries in which portions of the population are persecuted by their own governments. Afghanistan, Syria, China, Myanmar, Israel, India, to name just a few.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that's what I mean. You would throw Israel in with Syria and Afghanistan and Myanmar? Are you kidding me? It's an open society. It has a free press, a radical left press. It's got a judicial system, a radical judicial system. Palestinians have the right to vote. Palestinians are participating in the government. You have Palestinian judges. Even now, there have been about 5 terrorist attacks on Jews by Palestinian elements against Jews in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, other parts of the country, for no reason whatsoever. These people haven't done anything. And this guy dares to include Israel in his list of tyrannical, totalitarian countries. This is exactly what I mean. So he attacks Republicans and conservatives and Israelis. That's what he does while he's standing there in Ukraine. Shameful and shameless what goes on this network, MSNBC. It is disgusting.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.